This show is brought to you by DraftKings. DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app today and use code Dan for a special offer when you sign up. That's code Dan, only at DraftKings Sportsbook.
Welcome to the Big Suey, presented by DraftKings.
Why are you listening to this show?
The podcast that seems very similar to the other Dan Le Batard podcast.
I'm sorry, I'm not going to apologize for that.
In fact, the only difference seems to be this imaging.
I have been tempted in restaurants just walking past tables to grab somebody's fries that if they're just there. That hasn't happened to you guys?
I've done it.
And now, here's the marching man to nowhere, Fat Face, and the habitual liar.
At the very start of this show, almost 20 years ago, I remember having a conversation with Stugatz that I wonder, based on what I just saw from the ratings numbers of Yankees, Red Sox, whether we could revisit today, because I don't feel like I had a good answer some 20 years ago when this question made an appearance, and I'm not sure that I can answer it better today, but we've had a lot of experiences over the last 2 decades and seen a lot happen in the world. So the Yankees end up, because of the Red Sox-Yankee rivalry, because of what we were talking about yesterday, baseball is so fun this time of year, and then the stakes. Everybody loves stakes with games. It's not even that the baseball's that good, though it is. You put stakes on games, and it's 162 seasons distilled to one game. People will gather around their televisions.
That's what makes it fun, though, right? I mean, that's what makes it fun.
Yes,
Sorry for the voice.
Yes, but baseball, you're going to need to probably quit.
No. I do not need tea today. I just need to speak the first sentence, which I just did, and now the voice is good to go.
You can do that before we go on air. What I was going to say before you interrupted me, it's not working. You're smoking too many heaters. But
I didn't have one.
I would say nobody believes you. Oh, for the love of God.
Yo, I said today.
Actually,
I don't believe that either.
No.
I didn't.
No.
Mike, no, I did not.
I agree. He didn't have one today.
Today. Yes! Not one.
He had 7. He's had 7.
Let me smell your fingers.
Yeah. Let me smell your fingers.
Well, no, it's a permanent stain now. I mean, I didn't have one today. I didn't. I'm telling you.
Yesterday, nobody believes you. What happened to the chickens? Mike?
I was setting up a joke. 7.
It's 7.
So obvious that he's lying.
Classic setup. We're a comedy troupe.
Most obvious lie ever.
Fortified chemistry over 15 years.
This happens when you leave the room. You don't know the things that are said about you when you're taking your 20-minute heater break. When you waddle out, don't tell anybody, and we're just sitting here waiting for you. And Mike just muttered yesterday, I wish I knew whether it was going to be 5 minutes or 25. And then he just he didn't sob, but he's like, it was great remorse and worry when he said, I just wish you weren't addicted to heaters.
Yeah, me too.
Red Sox Yankees gets 7.7 million viewers. What I was going to say before you interrupted me, you thought I was going to give you some sort of advice of some sort. I was not. I was just saying maybe you can stop apologizing for this and fix it, because it's happening with the first sentence you're speaking every day, and I feel like it's avoidable if you just talk a little loudly in the hallway or something.
Right. Yep, you're right. I'll start doing it moving forward.
Well, I don't believe that either. I don't.
You've been heard, Dan.
I mean, it's not heard. I just would think that it's something that you would do because of how bad people are noticing how bad your voice has gotten. You're a professional broadcaster. Celine Dion protects her voice. It's your money-making tool. If your voice falls apart because of throat issues or anything else, we've got, all of us have a problem on our hands. You're Kyrie Irving all of a sudden. We're all looking at you like we kind of need you out here.
But no one has a bigger problem than me in that scenario, I
know, but you're a team player. We all have a problem. Protecting your voice is also your money, and because no one has a bigger problem than you, I would think you would protect your voice.
I am. I mean, I drank tea a couple of times this week. How about that?
Whittingham has to strong-arm you to drink tea.
I mean, I don't see any tea here today. I mean,
we just had a 15-minute conversation in here before we started recording, and he sounded fine. But then his first sentence on air.
Because broadcast voice, he's got to go pick it up. He's got to go get the fastball. He's an old junk baller, and he's got to go get the fastball. And when he gets the fastball, because he's at this stage in his career, I got to warm up. The old junk baller, you can't can't run out there like he used to 20 years ago. Just sprint on the field and go without calisthenics or anything else. But he thinks he can. This is the delusion of all greatness.
I have to stretch. You're right. I mean,
7.7 million, the biggest number since 1998, the biggest baseball game. And then it peaked at 8.4 million between 10:15 and 10:30. So even late night, people are, still locked into the game. And in Boston, 20% of all televisions.
Wow.
All televisions watching a baseball game. And the question I asked you 20 years ago is, would our show work in Boston? Would what we do, where they take sports that seriously, where they dissect a bunt or a managerial move? Baseball was first to the whole strategy game and the whole numbers game. We understand what we're measuring. Mike told you yesterday, Mina Kimes is a monster now, and that show is great. The way they were talking about Patrick Mahomes is something I wasn't seeing anywhere on television, just that he is getting rid of the ball in 2.5 seconds, and when he does, he's well above average, everyone in the league, at how good he is at it, and he's well above average on passes that should be completions that might not be for a number of different reasons. Where a ball's thrown. We have so many numbers now in football and basketball. Baseball started that a long time ago. The zeal that they have for Boston in sports has helped birth Barstool, Bill Simmons, Joe Rogan, like all of these people start with that wave of we love this thing. But our show, I don't think, loves it less than anybody else, but we do tend to talk about it seriously less than most people in this arena. Doesn't mean we're not interested in it, but we cannot dissect the strategy. I can't sit here. When we started in this profession, Stugatz, last night's St. Louis Dodger game and the managerial moves, we would spend a good portion of this show learning from the people who did it before, talking about whether the managerial move was a problem or 0 for 11 in runners in scoring position was why the Cardinals season ended. We would dissect it like that. We do not talk about sports that way anymore, and it's developed the allegiance of this audience. But would this work in Boston? I posed the question.
It didn't. I remember those EEI affiliate calls.
We didn't do well?
No.
Huh.
I hated us there.
I guess you have your answer.
I mean, if you're listening to sports talk radio in Boston, you've grown up with a certain type of show, and we are a stark departure of that, and I understand why we didn't work there.
This was one of the discussions we were having when Highly Questionable started on ESPN2, because my sensibilities are make it lighter. Make whatever it is that we're doing. You can throw the serious stuff in there, but just make it the circus tent. And the people who are at ESPN2 were at ESPN2, Stugatz, because they really love sports.
Yes.
They really want sports. And so we were doing something that was goofy and weird, and people reacted to it poorly because that was not the place for it.
But Mike, correct me if I'm wrong. We did well in New York, did we not?
We did. We did very well in New York.
Did and do.
Right.
In terms of the podcast numbers, New York is our best state.
Okay, but New York is a little bit different than Boston. Would we not agree? In a lot of different ways, New York has...
Although it's getting a lot more similar because a lot of those people are coming down here. What's up, Jess?
God, there's so many of them coming down here. Our real estate, what is happening down here is totally bananas.
I didn't ask for any of this.
EEI affiliate calls. I did not think that's where we would start today, but tell me more, because you shielded me from all of these things.
I was also, those were more contentious because there was a lot of racial things at play, and they had hosts there that were habitual line steppers. I'm trying to be careful with my words because that's as professional as I could label it. Yeah, there was a lot of beef there. They didn't like us. They took like personal attacks against us, so I didn't really give a shit about what they had to say about the show because I didn't respect them, nor their opinions, nor how they went about their business. So I wasn't the nicest person to deal with on those calls with respect to EEI. It wasn't just about EEI. It was about on the whole, and we would focus on bigger, more important markets for us. And when it came time to discuss EEI, my attitude soured.
Look at that crowd on our televisions here from last night, Stugatz. It's a walk-off home run. I'm sorry if you had the Cardinals plus 1.5 on runs.
I did.
Because a walk-off home run turned a 1-1 game that you had won the entire game. It's great to win those. It's so rare to win when you are betting one way or the other. You need your team to win by 2 runs, or you need them to win by, or lose by only a run.
We focus so much on bad beats. How about great wins? I mean, if you had the Dodgers minus 1.5, what a great gambling victory you had last night. Huh?
Hello.
I feel like you're a better of favorites, Chris. I don't know why you entered the chat as Ethel Merman there for some reason.
The last few weeks, I've actually picked up an Inferno, so I'm not making any of my own decisions anymore. And it's working out a lot better.
Yes.
Can we have a radio Inferno for you too, where you also don't make your own decisions?
Sure.
Tell me more. Tell me more about this ringer that you picked on. Is it a sucker's bet to bet the favorite to win by more than a run in baseball? Is that I imagine that's a dumb bet.
You'll get beat up by the juice monster over time.
I've never honestly bet baseball run line before last night, but what Inferno says, I do.
Why did you enter the chat as Ethel Merman? I want to know why you.
That was honestly a Greg Cody move I did right there. He does like hello when he feels like he's right on something.
Have you noticed some places, or more importantly, has your wife noticed some places where you are starting to resemble your father, even though you are in your early 30s?
Oh, no.
My personality. More so than, I don't know what you're talking about, but yeah, I notice all the time that things my dad has said my whole life are just popping into my head to say, and I'm saying them more and more. I used to push those things away, and now I just lean in. It's funny, man. He's a funny guy. Say what you want about him. He's funny.
Why do you think I'm friends with him? What else is being offered there?
Oh, no, Dan, be careful, man.
Toenails?
He cares about you, and I care about you. He's very upset.
He is upset because I called him a useless person, and I just can't believe we've arrived at a place in this country when it comes to free speech where I am choosing useless person as less offensive thing to say to him because I'm speaking of a single useless person than if I were to offend all useless people, because I only did that accidentally. I don't think Greg Cody is a useless person. I think he's got funny and is otherwise useless. And I think his wife and his family might agree with me on that. I was simply trying to avoid politically incorrect language on what it is I was going to call him.
Do you have things that your dad said growing up that you are now using? Like my dad used to get the check all the time at a restaurant, and he would say, "What'd we do? Break a window?"
That's my dad's thing too. The exact same thing.
And I started to say it every time we go out for dinner.
My wife hates me. What, do we break a window? It's
What,
a
we
good
break a
joke.
window?
Dan, you get it because if you were to break a window, you would get charged extra. It's a really good joke.
You understand it?
Thank you for explaining the layers and the nuance in it. You guys are comedy geniuses. I didn't understand it, but now that you've explained it,
Right.
as if as if that's the most expensive thing that you could cite there. The breaking of a window. We're at the point where meals cost more than that now.
The windows, yes.
Yes. In talking about the politically incorrect language, though, Stugatz, I finally got to Chappelle's special last night, and this was an interesting form of conflict for me. I told you I saw Chappelle when he was at the Hard Rock. It was Chappelle. He's one of the best public orators ever, not just comedians. He's probably the best comedian. I think he's the best I've ever seen. But public orators, he's up there with Martin Luther King, Farrakhan, wherever it is that you go with public orators, great speakers, he's at the top of the list. And his show, after making people at the Hard Rock go in for a rehearsal or equivalent of a rehearsal for this Netflix special, took 9 hours through the labyrinth of you got to get tested, you got to get in there. They were on super late. He was drunk when he went on, and it wasn't him trying. And I was disappointed in that. And I told you, is it fair for me to ask the best to be better? ask the best to be better. And it's what I'm about to do now after watching his special, because I was pleased that he didn't use anything from what it is that he was working on to sharpen that act. And these, I'm fascinated by stand-up comedy. The art of it, the sculpting, those acts take a year to prepare before they're put in television. The memorization, the notes, the music in it, the word choices, they're very specific. When Dave Chappelle has a special, he's trying to say something, Stugatz. And this special, have any of you seen it? Because this has made its way around now, and unfortunately what I'm watching is an argument break out, a political argument break out about the trans community and how much of his act he's spending there, and that it seems that he did the entire special just to keep doubling down on the ego of you can't do anything to me, which he's not wrong. He has earned the freedom. You can't cancel him. He's too big and strong. He doesn't need your sponsorships. He's got the relationships where he got Netflix. He
does. He needs Netflix.
Well, he's done with his specials for Netflix, and there will be a bidding war for whatever is next for him. And he got everyone, these big corporations, when he said, pay me for my stuff, got him to bow with public pressure because of what rolls behind him, because they appreciate that since he started this, it was like, that dude's going to get canceled. That dude's he's running on the edge and enjoying it from the first Chappelle show where they come out of the box and they're doing television unlike any that's ever been done. Race being done differently than it's ever been done on television. And then the story that follows, which is not irrelevant and might be more interesting than how famous and the best he's become, the things he turned down to get to this particular freedom that makes Kevin Hart envy him because he's got this freedom. And I don't think he's cancelable. To use that power this way feels to me like a waste of his time and his talent. This way, to just throw chum in the water that allows people to argue, and instead of talking about what a craftsman he is, just argue about the political choices of the moment, the argument du jour. However, I also think that he thinks, because these things are chosen so specifically, the words over a year sculpted, he thinks he's doing his job as a comedian. It's a job to protect comedy and to bump up against these things. He thinks it's the job, Stugatz, and he wanted to get out there and very purposely say, and this is art. This is the part that you were willing to risk when you're an artist to get people to talk about your art. What he is crying for in the middle of that, if you could get past the noise of the trans community, is why are black people still last in line when it comes to getting the fairness? What he keeps doing again and again is the reminder that my prism is the black prism, and we've had it worse than anybody. Now, my disappointment is I just don't want him to make it harder for vulnerable groups, because he comes from that. And I don't know how much he's been changed by hanging out with Kanye and Elon Musk. I don't know how much that changes a human being, but you don't have to use that power, that microscope, that freedom that he has. You don't have to use it to go after a vulnerable group because they've skipped you in line on the empathy meter from America. Like, the act is well honed. Like, I understand what he's trying to say. A lot of it's being missed because it's just the argument of why are you still, like, it's just the absolutism of get out of here, Dave Chappelle, you're a hating person, get out of here, I hate you, I've lost all respect for you, or applauding Dave Chappelle, hey, brave Dave Chappelle, going where comedy doesn't go. I don't think what he's doing is brave. I think he can spin a basketball on his finger that is comedy forever, and it's easy for him because he's a monster talent envied by the other comedians who are like, how the bleep does he do that? How is it possible that he's that kind of home run hitter? I've told you, Stugatz, Chris Rock and Seinfeld talking in a documentary about comedy, marveling that Bill Cosby could just sit there for 2 hours and do his act. Chris Rock and Seinfeld, best that you see. Just being like floored because Bill Cosby could just sit up there and do it without having to sculpt every word on where the laugh is. Roy, what did you think of the special?
Well, for certain parts of it, I thought he was trying to explain away everything that he said about the trans community over the past couple of specials and over his career. But he did bring up, like you said, the LGBT community, their movement being so successful. And that is very much true, especially compared to the black community. Like, he's right. Like, it's almost like, what are we doing wrong as a black community that we're not as successful as that community? Like, what can we do? It's almost like we can learn from them.
At reaching people, but it is interesting because it's not an irrelevant point that he's making. As people shout about the act, Stugatz, the cry in it for, he ends it with "stop punching down on me." He ends it, the accusation that he's getting is you're punching down on the trans community. And his argument is, no, if we're all equal, there is no punching down. And then he ends this tapestry that he's weaving over a year as the greatest public order we've seen in comedy. He ends it with "stop punching down on me."
I think the biggest criticism that I've read about this special that I will admit I haven't watched yet is that he fails to recognize that these issues are intersectional, that there are members of the Black LGBTQ community who are desperate for him to stop punching down on them, and that for there to be any sort of progress, that we're all kind of working towards the same thing, right? Like, it's not one versus the other. It's not like one marginalized group versus another marginalized group.
I know trans violence is a black issue because black trans violence in particular is astronomical compared to other groups. So generally whatabouts never really get you anywhere when trying to discuss social issues.
So symbolic to me, though, that you'd find all of our divisions even there, right? That everything you see happening in basketball, LeBron, a spokesman for his people on the vaccine. Not a spokesman for everybody. LeBron often a spokesman for choosing his people and saying, no, I don't speak for everybody.
But that's somewhat normal, is it not? I mean, LeBron's speaking for his people.
But the divisions is what I'm saying. If Jessica's bringing up, hey, there are intersections here, there are connection points where you can also apply it to your people. Right. To me, the symbolism of one of the great orators of our time being so ravaged by the divisions that he's simply saying, no, I'm choosing my side over here. Stop beating up on us. Stop telling me about gay feelings. Stop telling me about, before you get to black feelings, we were first here on the injustices. Our injustices are longer. And to me, that's what art is. He's in the middle of the conflict of our times, telling you, going to the third rail, going to the rail where he knows it's dangerous with more freedom than any comedian has ever had before. And he's telling you, I want to be heard on this. And I can't tell whether it's just his ego because I can, or whether he actually wants to make the larger statement, because that dude was heartbroken for 9 minutes off of the top of his head when he was talking about George Floyd, and people were expecting funny, and he went with 9 societal minutes where everybody was hypnotized because they were like, oh my God, the way this guy speaks about it is like no one you've heard.
It's a pig-headed rationalization that he's spent 5 specials trying to craft, and he's finally found himself here, and he just perpetuates nonsense. It's actually below him, considering where I put him, and I'm going to stop elevating him to a degree because just admit you were wrong. Show an evolution. Help. Don't perpetuate the same violence with your words. What is your base? Are you speaking for all black people here? Are you just speaking for black men? Or just black men that think like you? There's a reason why he aligns with Joe Rogan. Like, the whole independent thinker and, like, that's his thing. And to try to intellectualize what he's saying in this is kind of, to me, gullible. Because to me, it's very clearly just him trying to work through a rationalization because he won't give you, like Joe Rogan won't give you, the satisfaction of admitting he was wrong. That's really at the heart of what's going on with the vaccine in this country. It's the last line of defense that a lot of people have to hold over you. You can take my precedent. You can tell me everything I believe is fake, but you cannot make me put this in my arm. And I will be damned if I let you have that on me. There's no stronger force in this country than men refusing to admit they were wrong.
Spoken from the...
Which is why
Experience.
I'm still not totally sold on Justin Herbert.
Hey, football fans, I'm here to tell you that NFLSundayTicket.tv is like having front row seats to every live out-of-market game every Sunday afternoon. No matter where you live, that's a lot of football. And guess what? This season, you get even more football than ever before. 18 weeks of NFL glory right there in your front room. Stream to your favorite device. Just picture it. You put your feet up, kick back, eat snacks, oh yeah, and stream an insane amount of football. So make your seat a front row seat and catch every second of your favorite players and favorite teams every Sunday afternoon. Just visit NFLSundayTicket.tv and use promo code DAN2021 to order today. Select international games excluded. Eligibility and blackout restrictions apply. Only one game may be accessed remotely at any given time. Available games based on device location. Compatible device operating system required. Data charges may apply. Subscription renews each year at the prevailing rate.
Don Lebatard.
Kensley Jansen. I got to be careful here. What did I just do there? Let me start again.
Stugats.
He's their closer. Comes in, ninth inning, closes the game out. His name is Kenley Jansen. He has blamed his recent...
This is the Don Lebatard Show with the Stugats.
You guys are really down on Chappelle. Wow. It's like...
I'm really just hoping that he's not going to use, because he mentioned his trans comedian friend at the end. Yeah. I hope that he's not going to use that as an excuse. It felt like he's using that as like an excuse for
my one friend is cool with these jokes. So
right. Exactly.
I have a trans friend is the new I have a black friend.
Right.
The irony in that is like so thick.
The whole thing is, though, that's why I find it so fascinating, because it's
there are people calling for Netflix to take the special down, because they're saying like this is going to perpetuate violence. This is like the most violent year against trans people in history. There's all these like anti-trans
Well, how
bills.
do you feel about that? Do you think do they have a responsibility to do that? Or?
I don't know. I mean, I think Netflix knew exactly what they were going to get with this, so they're not going to do it. Do they have a responsibility to? I mean, I think there's an argument to be made for deplatforming people with violent ideas, and like Dave Chappelle can find an audience elsewhere, but I don't think they're going to.
I mean, he did do that misogynistic, like violence towards women. He did mention a couple of jokes about that.
And he made a rape joke as well. Yeah. He made a joke that I winced. I was like, oh, that one's over the line. It was. I don't wince very often.
My favorite comedian is Anthony Jeselnik. I like dark humor. I like things that might seem inappropriate, but I don't think Anthony Jeselnik is one of the great thinkers of the 21st century. I go to Anthony Jeselnik to laugh at dark stuff because of my childhood, and I just turn to that stuff, and I have a weird sense of humor that way. I don't elevate Anthony Jeselnik to this thought-provoking tastemaker. I just think he's the guy with the dark comedy. And maybe Chappelle's just the guy that used to make me laugh with funny skits.
It also doesn't seem like Anthony Jeselnik has any sense of anger or kind of is going after people. Yeah. It's just he's poking fun at something that is incredibly dark. Whereas it does feel like Dave Chappelle is trying to say something, right? It's not just about, let me try and make you laugh.
He's also got reasons to be angry that perhaps Jeselnik does not have. Dave Chappelle also, one of the things that I find just, it's riveting to me about the entirety of the journey is the comedian for our times is arriving at this intersection with more power and freedom to not be cancelable than anyone we've ever seen. He's in control of everything. He locks up your phone when you come in, and he ripped me off when he came to town and made me wait 9 hours, and I did. I waited 9 hours, and they took my phone because not a sentence of this will get out to the public.
Those monsters.
And he didn't.
I mean, for real, what did you do? Like, what did your thumbs do while you were sitting there?
I mean, seriously.
Did you
9 hours?
Look at him the whole time?
What was worse than 9 hours?
Did you blink?
They took my phone is going to become the new I buried my grandparents. I did say that as if it was just a huge outrage.
I mean, 9 hours, though. I mean, without a phone.
I said, but I was indignant. I was told they took my phone. I pled with you, the audience, to understand the pain of that.
Somewhere, someone was signing a two-way contract, and I couldn't find out.
I've never felt your pain more. I mean,
I was clawing at the sack that my phone was in. They locked it up, and I was ripping at it. I was like, these monsters.
Did they at least let you go play blackjack?
It was a nightmare to get there and get into that show, and it was a ripoff, and he didn't use any of that material, none of it.
are you guys bailing after like 35 minutes? No phone, you're waiting in line, you have no idea how long it's going to be. I am gone inside of 45 minutes.
That's a great question, then. Who makes it so you're not?
I'm gone after like 6 minutes without Twitter or TikTok.
But who makes it so you're not, though? Because you guys don't love Chappelle that way.
Well, I guess I'm going to find out on Saturday because Jason Jackson is taking all of our phones for your roast.
No.
What?
I had this experience when my friends opened up for the Rack on Tour. Jack White's my favorite musician. He famously seals people's phones in those sacks. Shout out to Jacuzzi Boys.
But who's the person that you would wait 9 hours to see without your phones? Like, I would wait 9 hours to see the Grateful Dead if they took my phone. I'd wait. I love them that much that I would wait for the concert. I don't know if I'd do it for a single comedian. Not one.
Oh, does it have to be a comedian? Because I was going to say Lewis Hamilton. I would lock up my phone to meet Lewis Hamilton.
Wow. I don't think that it has to be a comedian. Mike, who would you do it for? You'd do it for Jack White. You'd do it for a lot of musicians.
I did it for Jack White for 4 days, 4 straight days. Loved it. I was really immersed in it, and I've taken lessons from that. Whenever I'm at birthday dinners specifically, put the phone away. I give it to my wife. I put it in her purse. I'm trying to do this a little bit more because I am a lot of my memories are clouded by just being in my phone. I'm really trying to pay attention to the sights and sounds of things.
Smells.
Let's backtrack for a second.
Smell for me is like my strongest sense of memory.
Right.
So I'm like, when I first get into a place I really want to remember, I'm like a psycho just going around like, that's not a cocaine joke.
And you're not alone doing that in Miami, by the way.
So whenever you smell like
that is a cocaine
sewage,
joke.
whenever you smell sewage, you just think of Orange Bowl.
And I think of the softball fields at Lollapalooza at Grand Park.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have favorite smells on this front? Do you have a handful? If we did top 5, Mike Ryan, because I like the idea of
smells are important.
I like the idea of you like
let me put I got top 5 smells.
I mean, I remember
closest to memory.
Yeah, the smell of the duck pond in my town when I was growing up. It was just, I know it sounds weird, but there was this mossy, beautiful, springish smell to it that I remember until this day. It's weird.
What a little poem you wrote there.
Thank
a tapestry to your childhood.
Yeah.
It's not going to surprise you guys at all that for me it's an ice cream shop.
Mike, what's the smell that comes to mind when you think of the old 790 studio?
Gary Blau.
Yeah.
Gary Blau.
He had a smell. Yeah, he did.
I was going to say gout. I was looking for the disease that I could go to that
Jonathan
would be a funny.
actually had gout. That wasn't a joke earlier in the week.
Are you talking about that smell that comes out of Kilwins? Is that the smell? I mean,
that's good. Good smell.
Nope.
Yeah.
Dairy Queen.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
Little blizzard, huh?
Dairy Queen.
Has a smell, though?
Oberweis has a smell.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
You guys don't have Oberweis, though. Never mind.
Is anyone else never that impressed when the Dairy Queen thing does the thing with the blizzard where they flip it upside down? It's like, we get it. Your ice cream's thick. It's not that impressive.
Put it on the poll, Whittingham, please. We get it. Your ice cream's thick. Not that impressive. One word. Yes or no?
Just give me my blizzard.
Are you ready, Mike Ryan, for top 5 smells that you associate with childhood?
I need you to fill for just
How about you, Whittingham? How about you, Roy? How about Chris? Does the back row have some smells that they associate with childhood? Because now I want you to imagine, Mike Ryan, as a dog, sniffing places as soon as he arrives. He doesn't want to talk to you people. He doesn't like small talk. But if you see him sniffing, you know what he is doing. It's not just avoiding you.
The smell of the first snow of the year. You guys also can't relate to that one. Damn it.
I know what you're talking about.
No, we don't
it's a good
know.
smell.
It just has like a clean, cold smell.
The smell of food at my grandma's house for Thanksgiving. The turkey.
Give me a hug.
Please don't touch me.
All right, I'm ready with my.
Get away from me.
I'm ready with my top 5.
Roy's not much of a hugger. I've seen him hug very few people. In 20, it was beautiful. Roy, it was.
Please don't touch me.
How do you not get enveloped in the bosom and the joy and the warmth of Chris Cody? If you were gonna hug somebody around here, I would think it would be Chris Cody.
It would probably be Stugatz, actually.
Attaboy.
Yeah.
We've hugged it out before.
Yes, we have.
Yes, we have.
Yes.
I love Roy.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Number 5, Mike.
The Orange Bowl.
Excellent.
Urine, beer, rust, and fear. The Orange Bowl.
Number 4.
The Aria in Las Vegas. You've never been, you know what I mean. I almost died because of their buffet, but man, it smelled great.
This is not a smell from childhood. I thought I was going to get nostalgic childhood memories. Instead, I'm getting degenerate memories.
I would say the thicker Las Vegas smell is the Caesars, because there's just like this, like you smell cigarettes there. Like in theory, they pump oxygen into those places so you don't smell cigarettes, and yet the Caesars still smells like cigarettes.
That leads me to my number 3, the tobacco room at Dania High Life. I can still smell it.
So can I.
Because I think whatever happened in that room is still lodged in my nostrils several years after going there. Number 2 is Grand Park, actually. Lollapalooza, the smell of dried beer on clay. It kind of smelled like shit. And then they put hay on top of it to try to make it smell less like shit, and it only made it smell more like barnyard shit.
It's the smell of drunk 14-year-olds, too.
Yeah, drunk 14-year-olds and mud from the night before, but all that being said, Muse killed it for that one song. And number 1, Jason Taylor.
Excellent. Well done. Man.